Congruence. A rigid motion is a motion that preserves distance and angle measure. And if you remember from our first unit, translations, reflections, and rotations are rigid motions. A rigid motion creates a congruent figure. What we mean when we say congruent is that the two figures have the same shape and the same size. This is a symbol that we will use for congruence. Two polygons are congruent if they have the same number of sides and angles, corresponding sides have the same length, and corresponding angles have the same measure. Sides and angles are corresponding if they're in the same location in the figure. Congruent sides are shown with like tick marks, and congruent angles are shown with like angle arcs. When making a congruent statement, the corresponding parts need to be in the same location in the statement. All right, now we're going to move on to our examples. Example 1, we're going to mark the angles and sides to indicate that the two triangles are congruent. So the way that I have you do it is to just go in order. So let's look at the first two letters, Z and Y. Z and Y is the first pair. So for the Z and Y, I'm going to put 1 tick mark. Z and Y corresponds to S and U. So we have the first two letters in each triangle. So S and U will also represent with 1 tick mark. What these tick marks mean are that these two line segments are corresponding, meaning they're in the same place in each figure, and they're also congruent. Next, we have YX. And let me actually use color. So we did ZY and SU. Let me change color. Here, the next two we have is YX. So I'll use 2 tick marks. And we also have UT. And then lastly, ZX, we'll use 3 tick marks, and ST, we'll use 3 tick marks. Now we've indicated the corresponding sides. Now we need to indicate the corresponding angles. So again, you'll look at your congruent statement. So the first letter for this triangle is Z. The first letter for this triangle is S. So because they're first, we're going to use 1 angle arc. So 1 angle arc for Z, 1 angle arc for S. Y is our second, U is our second, so we'll use 2. 1, 2. Uh-oh. Hopefully that'll go away in a second. I don't want to click on it. And then U will use 2 angle arcs. Here we go. And then last, we have X and T. That's our third letter, so we'll use 1, 2, 3 arcs, 1, 2, 3 arcs. So it's best that you just go in order for the angles. 1, 2, 3. So we got 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then for the line segments, you do the first 2 letters, the last 2 letters, and then the first and last. Example 2, name all corresponding parts. So for this, we really don't need the figure. We're going to just focus on the congruent statement. So let's do the line segments first. Remember, get the first 2. So the first 2 here is DE and LM. So line segment DE is congruent to line segment LM. And again, we got that from the first 2 letters. Now we'll do the last 2. Line segment EF is congruent to line segment MN. And then finally, the first and the last. Line segment DF is congruent to line segment LN. Now we have named all of the corresponding sides. Now we're going to move to our angles. So let's begin with the first. We got D and we have L. So angle D is congruent to angle L. Then we have E and M. Angle E is congruent to angle M. And then finally, we have F and N. Angle F is congruent to angle N. And the last thing that you'll have to be able to do is to write the congruent statement. So we're going to write a statement that indicates that the triangles are congruent. So the best thing that I can suggest that you do is look at the angles. So we're simply looking at angle arcs. First of all, you need to be able to see the two triangles. So here we have one triangle. Here we have another triangle. So let's focus on this triangle first. So look at your arcs. How many arcs do we have here? 1, 2, 3. So I'm just going to write a 3 so I don't forget. We have 1 here and then 2 here. So when it comes to writing this triangle, I'm simply going to go in numerical order. So this is going to be triangle 1, 2, 3, which is LMT. So triangle LMT is congruent to, let's do the same thing for the second triangle. This is 2 arcs, 1 arc, 3 arcs, 1, 2, 3, MLN. And there you have written the congruent statement.